Namaste, welcome to the Nirvega Vidya channel. In this video, we shall look at chapter 4 of the Bhagavad-Gita, which is Jnana-Karma-Sannyasa Yoga. Now, the fourth chapter commences by Krishna declaring that he taught the knowledge of yoga to Vivaswan, who is the sun god, in the beginning of creation. And then he says Vivaswan taught it to his offspring, Ikshvaku, and Ikshvaku taught it to Manu, and then that's how humans got it. That's the lineage. Now, Arjuna asks a question. He says, Krishna, what do you mean? You and I are about 80 years old. It is said that they were about 84 years old around the time of the Kurukshetra battle. Seems like around during those days, 84 was not old age. So, Bhishma, imagine how old Bhishma must have been. He must have been in his hundreds, perhaps. So, anyway, so Arjuna asks Krishna, what do you mean? You are about 80 years old. What do you mean when you say that you taught, Vivaswan in the beginning of creation? And then Krishna presents the doctrine of reincarnation, saying that, see, we are all eternal beings. We were only the body is born and dies. The soul and the mental tendencies, they all live on forever. And then he says, you do not remember all your previous births, but I have knowledge of them. And then the famous shloka, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir-bhavati bharata, abhyuttanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyam. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Wherever righteousness declines and unrighteousness increases, at that time I take births again and again for the restoration of the balance in the world. And then he says, those who know the truth behind his birth and his actions attains liberation and is not born again. Is janma karma cha me divyam yena yogeti tatpataha tyaktva deham punarjanma, which means he who knows the reality behind me, the truth that I am the supreme reality, he is not born again. He attains my supreme abode. He says that in whatever manner people approach him, he presents himself to them in that manner. This is how the fourth chapter starts. Then we come to the secret of work. Krishna says that one ought to do actions in a way that is conducive to liberation. The previous chapter, as we've seen, is about Karma Yoga, and Krishna continues that trend and talks about the secret of work in this chapter as well. He says that regarding the nature of work, even the intelligent ones are deluded. Kavayopyatra mohitaha, which means even the intelligent people, they themselves are not clear about what is work, what is not work, what is bad work, karma, vikarma, akarma. Karma is work or good work. Vikarma is bad work and akarma is non-work. He says people are deluded about the nature of these three things. And then Krishna says that he who sees work in non-work and non-work in work is said to be a wise man. Now, this is a very profound shloka. Adi Shankara devotes about 10 passages of commentary to explain the nature of, the meaning behind this shloka. But I'm not going to be covering the Shankara Bhashya in this matter. I'm just going to try to succinctly present what Krishna tries to mean here. When we feel that we are the initiators of certain actions, what we call willful actions or volitional actions, where we clearly feel like, we are the ones who are doing this. Krishna says that the intelligent man sees that as non-work, in the sense that he realizes that it is not he who is doing it, that it is the very nature of Prakriti that these actions are taking place, that everything is under a mechanism and that is why it's happening. There are causes to all our thoughts, there are causes to all our effects, prior causes, because of which they are happening now. And there is no such thing as an independent action. So that is what is referred to as seeing non-work in work. And seeing work in non-work is where, when we think that we are not doing any actions, Krishna says that the very action of trying to not do actions is an action in itself. There is volition involved there, and therefore it is actions. So that is what is referred to as seeing non-work, seeing work in non-work. So that's a very dumbed down version of what the shloka means. When a man does all actions without desires, attachments, and expectations, and is content with what he gets by chance, yadricha labha santushtaha. If he's happy with what he gets by chance and he doesn't have any expectations, and does all actions as yajna, he is not bound by his actions. We already saw in the third chapter that Krishna says it is only acts that are done as yajna that do not bind a man. So then the question naturally arises, what are the different kinds of yajna? So that Krishna addresses in the succeeding shlokas. There are 12 kinds of yajna that Krishna enumerates in the Gita, and they are Brahma Yajna, which is realizing Brahman as the reality behind everything. The famous Loha Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi, that speaks about Brahma Yajna, the attitude of a person who engages in Brahma Yajna. He sees everything as the supreme reality, Brahman. Deva Yajna, which is offerings made to the deities. Indriya Sanyama Yajna, which is restraint of the senses. Indriya Yajna, which is the exact opposite of Indriya Sanyama Yajna, wherein the person does not engage in any restraint, but sees the very process of perception, what he sees, what he hears, what he feels, what he smells and tastes. He does not place any restrictions upon these experiences, but rather sees the very process of experience as a yajna. The sense objects are offered into the fire of the sense organs. That is how that is the nature of the person. That is the attitude of a person who engages in Indriya Yajna. They see the very process of perception as a yajna. So it is actually the opposite of Indriya Sanyama Yajna. There is no restraint involved here. It's only a shift in the attitude. Atma Sanyama Yajna, which is offering the functions of all the organs, the Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, and the pranas in the fire of self-restraint. Then the famous shloka which enlists the 5 kinds of yajna. Dravya Yajna, which is offering materials. Tapo Yajna, which is undertaking austerities. Yoga Yajna, the practice of Ashtanga or Hatha Yoga. Swadhyaya Yajna, which is the study of scriptures. And Jnana Yajna, which is the attainment of knowledge. These are the 5 yajnas referred to in the... sorry, there is a typo. Tapo Yajna does not come in 2nd chapter 28 shloka. It is 4th chapter 28 shloka. They come in the 28th shloka. 5 yajnas are enumerated in that one shloka. We also find pranayama yajna, which is the regulation of breath control. Deha Sayama Yajna, which is the regulation of diet, taking care of the physical body, regulating the body in all that it does. So that is Deha Sayama Yajna. So these are the 12 kinds of yajna that Krishna mentions in the Gita. And he concludes by saying that Jnana Yajna is superior to yajna done with materials. So then he takes up from there and explains how one can get knowledge and what is the nature of this knowledge. Krishna says that one should attain knowledge from the wise by showing respect, questioning and serving them. Tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. In the Kathopanishad, we find Yama instructing Nachiketa in something very similar to this. He says, Uttishtata jagrata prapya varani bodhata. He says, arise, awake, seek the wise people and learn from them. So we find a similar statement made by Krishna here. Even the worst of sinners will be absolved of his sins if he attains knowledge. The fire of knowledge burns all actions of a person. Knowledge is extolled as the greatest of purifiers. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. Which means there is nothing as purifying as knowledge here. And Shraddha, which is intense faith in the scriptures and in the words of the Guru, is said to be the necessary condition for attaining knowledge. He says, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. Jnanam labdhva param shantim achirenadhikachati. He who has this faith, he who has intense faith, attains knowledge. And when he attains knowledge, jnanam labdhva param shantim, he who attains knowledge attains supreme peace. In the next shloka, Krishna also says, he who does not have this shraddha does not get knowledge. He's ruined. He does not get knowledge. And also samshayatma vinashyati. He who has entertains doubts about these things, he is ruined. He does not progress along the spiritual path. Krishna concludes by enjoining Arjuna to perform actions after using the sword of knowledge to cut the doubts in his heart. He concludes by letting Arjuna know that knowledge and actions are not two diverse paths. They are not divorced of each other. They are not airtight compartments. He says that one has to use this knowledge itself to engage in actions. It is not that the question that Arjuna asked in the beginning of the 3rd chapter as to why he has to engage in actions if knowledge is superior is illogical, because they are not divorced of each other. They are not the opposite of each other. That is what Krishna tries to say here. Adi Shankara would vehemently disagree with this. He sees knowledge and actions as antithetical to each other. He says they are the exact opposite. But I feel this is a more... I don't think Krishna exactly takes that kind of an extreme stance where he says they are both divorced of each other. He does not. I don't think he takes that stance. I think what he tries to say is use that knowledge to engage in actions. Use that knowledge and engage in intelligent actions so that it does not bind you. Karma Yoga in itself is the offspring of Jnana, is the product of Jnana. It is merely a change in your attitude, which means a change in your knowledge. So I think what he tries to say here is that use this knowledge, get rid of all the doubts that are there in your heart, and then engage in action, then engage in battle. Do it as a karma yoga, and then the sins will not affect you. So with that, Krishna concludes the 4th chapter. And with that, we come to the end of this video. If you liked our video and you found it useful, kindly do subscribe to our channel and also like the video. Also share it with all those people whom you think would benefit from it. That would be a great way of showing your support and encouragement to our endeavor. Thank you.